and welcome to the show. I'm Mag, and how's your Thursday coming along? I hope so far so good. We're broadcasting live from our studio at Quill City Mall, and if you're walking around, hey, you're more than welcome to come say hi from outside, of course. Yeah, now if you're watching us live from Facebook, hello and welcome to the show as well. This afternoon, it makes me really happy because I will be speaking to an awesome woman. She's so insightful. There's so much information that I can get from her every time I speak to her. She opens my eyes to a whole new set of things and new perspectives every time I speak to her. So she's none other than Dr. Wai Sheng. She's a founder and clinical director of Growing Spaces Psychology Center in Malaysia. She's got like 18 years of experience in the mental health field. And let's face it, okay, after everything that's gone through in the past, 4 or 5 months with the whole COVID season, MCO, RMCO, CMCO, you name it, lah, okay? There's a lot that goes through our minds as well, okay? So she's the expert, and that's why I'm going to speak to her this afternoon. So let's bring on my guest today, Dr. Wai Sheng, onto the show.
Hi, thank
Hi,
you
Wai
so much.
Sheng, how are you?
I'm
Thank
good. Thank you so much for your very gracious introduction.
Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us because I know you're a very busy person and just making time for us. I mean, I'm very grateful for that one. Now, you had a conference that was planned for April, like right smack in the heat of
Um,
everything, right? What happened to that?
you're really touching my grief. Yes, we have to postpone it. Yeah,
You had
to
to
December.
postpone it. Okay. I
Yeah.
see. So it
Mhm.
still will go on then.
Hopefully, we'll try to make it virtual if possible. Yeah, it's in the plan.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for
Fantastic.
asking.
You're welcome. I wanted to know because everything's gone online right now. And I know you guys put in a lot of work into that whole conference. So it'd
Mm.
be sad to see it go to waste. So yeah, online is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Good
In fact,
job.
I think this is the time, because many of us are actually grieving. uh,
Definitely.
um, and actually, really, that's something that made me say yes to this invitation today. I just thought that we don't think about it that way, but actually, all of us are really going through losses. We are experiencing a lot of losses. Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you feel it that
Definitely.
way? Like losses?
I never saw it as a
Um,
loss or grieving, but now that you've
mm,
pointed it out, it's very
mm,
interesting. Yeah.
mm,
So
mm.
let's face it, the whole COVID season, right? It put us into a mess somewhat, okay? Gave us stresses that we didn't even expect to experience in the year
Right,
2020.
right,
And we've
right.
had to deal with it from business owners who had to pivot and then recalibrate everything that they needed to do to keep their businesses alive. And then
Mm,
there's also individuals who've had to suffer the loss of income or the loss of jobs and reduced wages. There's so much that everybody has had to deal with in just
right.
the past 4 months, to be
Yes.
very honest, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
let's talk about the state of our mental health. How
mm-hmm.
are we as individuals affected by the current pandemic? How was it
Yeah.
supposed to be, and how
Mm,
has it been affected by it?
yeah. Yeah. I think what is really normal that all of us are experiencing right now, and which is something that I keep sharing with people and my clients, is it is normal, that sense of discomfort, or that that feeling, that you don't know how to name it. You're probably fine. It's like, day to day you're probably doing okay, but
Yep.
that's that sense during, when the lockdown just happened, and it's like everybody panic in that sense, and then now
Yep.
we are slowly opening up, and still, there is another group of people who are probably experiencing re-entry anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and if I were to lump them together, it is still a feeling of losses. We
Yep.
are grieving multiple losses: loss of our freedom. We use, or we thought that we have some freedom, a lot of freedom, but actually, when one pandemic happened, everything closed down, so we
That's right.
lost our freedom. Now everywhere we go we have to wear masks, right? So that's a
Mm-hmm.
loss of freedom. Many people talk about this new normal. It's really a false sense of security, isn't it? We lost our sense of security,
That's right.
predictability, world.
Hmm.
Yeah. So many losses here. Yeah. Other than the very concrete, like you lost business, income, maybe at risk of losing your job, those are pretty concrete. But there's this ambiguous or very vague sense of loss, of our freedom, our predictability, our sense of security of the world. Yeah. So
Wow.
we are all part of this, I think.
Definitely, we are all in this together, and
Mm.
you've definitely painted a whole new side of things that I never saw. I mean, the loss of the sense of security, the loss of freedom that we used to have, and now we don't. I mean, we don't even have that freedom to walk out of our house without a mask because we're all
Right,
afraid, and that brings it
right,
back to security. So
right.
brilliant. I love that. Now, if
Mm.
you're watching us via Facebook Live and you have any questions that you'd like to ask Dr. Ng right now or throughout the show, you can actually post your questions in the comment section below. And if you'd like to share the word, please go ahead and share this broadcast so that we can reach out to more people and tell them that they're not alone. Okay, if you're going through this whole predicament, this whole point in life where you're lost for things, you feel grief, you feel unsettled, you feel stressed, let's share the word and let's discover how we can help each other in this battle as
Mm.
well. Now, as we mentioned, it's not an easy time for any one of us, whether it's business owners, whether if you're an employee of a company as well. But as a professional, right? Who would you say is the most affected by this pandemic?
Yeah. I think all of us are affected, but um, it really depends on the resources that you believe you have. Yeah, and when I say resources, I believe that all of us have resources. Whether it be family support or good network of friends, or your strong immune system, or your spiritual faith, or even having a job. That's resources, right? Or your bank account. If your bank account is still okay, that's a resource that's important. Um, Meg, are you still with me? The my screen freezes, so I'm not sure if I'm still online. Hi, did I? Was it my line?
The bare naked ladies with 1 week on AFORadio.com. Hi, I'm Mag. With me today is Dr. Wai Sheng. She is a psychologist and she's talking to us about dealing with mental health during this whole pandemic season. I apologize for, my internet connection. I suddenly decided to leave my laptop. So my bad. I'm sorry for
No
that one.
worries. It's a little like
So
a pandemic, isn't it?
I know, right? Today it's
People,
just
right?
like one after another. It's like the whole saying of jatuh di timpa tangga kind of thing.
Yeah.
So where were we? I mean, who is the most
Mhm.
affected by this whole pandemic?
I think people who are feeling like they're lacking of resources. All of us have resources, but
Yeah,
if you're feeling like your resources are running low, or you feel that you can't survive with whatever that you have, then I think you will panic. And of course, in our society there are those with a lot of resources, so they can maybe survive or tahan for a few more months, right? But
that's
there are
right.
those who really live day by day or week by week, and so in terms of finances, or even having support, not having families around, not having your loved ones around, that kind of resources can make people feel very vulnerable. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So, um, in a nutshell, everybody's affected in a different level, somewhat, correct?
Yeah, depending on how much resources you feel you have, and this is subjective. I mean, if like you compare somebody with a bank, two people's bank account, one may have like thousands, another may have like 50. The 50 ringgit one may be quite happy with what they have, and they feel secure about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's somewhat subjective. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so now knowing that everybody is somewhat a little bit affected during this whole pandemic season, can we actually notice if we are facing a mental health issue? Do we? How will we notice if we're going through something?
Yeah, I think your body will tell you. That's the first thing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, we're talking about mental health, but really, we are first body, right? So that's the first thing that we can touch, and that's the first thing that manifests symptoms, right? Aches and pains, or if you're having heart palpitation, difficulty breathing, And I often say to people that the first thing, that would react is, how is your eating? How is your sleeping? If you're eating too much, or if you're sleeping too much, or if you can't sleep at all, or if you can't eat, I think that those are telltale signs of a person who is not just physically not coping well, but probably emotionally they are very stressed out. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. So I would assume that everybody has different telltale signs, isn't it? But what
Mhm.
are the most common ones that we should look out for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think during this pandemic, this time, or even now that we have kind of, we are in this re-entry phase, right?
Correct.
I think some level of anxieties, fears, even sadness, or some of us want have to go back to school or work. We may feel a little sad if you're quite happy staying at home. Worries about how things will be. And I think some anger, if you're feeling like things are kind of out of your control, and
Hmm.
instead of feeling fearful, some people react with anger, and
Yeah.
so more anger comes out, a bit more short temper. So I think some of these are normal, but
Yeah.
if you are noticing a more extreme mood or more extreme negativities, like for example, you're feeling so despair about life, that or no so much distress that you want to die, or that sense of aggressiveness escalate to a point of violence to yourself or to other people, or your sleep and your appetite is affected, then I think that's when those are good signs to that tell you that you may need a little bit more help, you know.
Mm.
Um, if you have good resources around you, people with listening ears, that's very nice. Start from there. And if not, or if that's not enough, then go for professional help.
Okay. I think we discussed this the last time when we spoke about grief. I think when it comes down to mental health, stepping out from your comfort zone and saying, I think I need help, or reaching
Mhm.
out to someone and saying, I think I need help, I have a problem, right? That is like the hardest thing to do for any individual. Right?
Yeah.
So, if we do spot a friend or a family member who may exhibit these traits, how can we help them without making them feel like we're judging them or making them feel like, we're attacking them? Because sometimes it may come across like that as well, isn't it?
Hmm. No, I totally agree with you. I think it's good to show your concern, rather than, sometimes we try not to show that concern, we don't want people to think that we are busybody or something, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's really not very helpful. I mean, if we see something that we're concerned about, it is authentic, I think, to
Yep.
express the concern. But of course, don't do it too much. If you're more anxious than the person, or if you show that you are more anxious than the person, then the person will probably end up having to carry your burden. They have to take care of your feelings first before they, focus on themselves, and so that's not very
Absolutely.
helpful. Yeah, so
Yeah.
show your concern, but not too much. Um, and I think what people can do is really focus on how can you develop a safe and trusting relationship with the person that you are concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Because chances is that if the person feels safe with you, they are more willing to open up and share what's
Definitely.
bothering them.
Definitely.
Um, and even if they're not ready for professional help, yeah, but just you allowing yourself to listen, non-judgmental, um, support them, journey with them. I think that helps to help people ventilate a little bit. And when people listen to what they are saying to them, not your advice, but when people can listen back to what they say, sometimes the solution is already there. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other danger that we may have to encounter is denial, isn't it? Denying the
Mm,
fact that we may need help or that we have
mm,
a problem, and
mm,
we tend to think that we're always okay.
mm,
But let's face it, everybody goes through this, so we're all in this together, like you said
mm,
earlier.
mm,
So how do we overcome denial? How would we know we're in the
mm.
state of denial?
I'm smiling because like you don't like denial. It's like, I really like denial though. I think denial is a great defense. Terrible. You know how when you drive through on the highway and then you see stuff on the road. I don't mean like real accident. I mean like you see like dead bodies.
Roadkill.
Yeah, and yeah, these kind of things tend to stick in my head. And I have
Okay.
like big imagination. So that's when I think that denial is great. Yeah,
Definitely.
there's a place for it. Yeah, but sorry, I forgot. What's your question? I'm celebrating denial here.
How do we overcome denial?
Okay. Um, well, I think I often tell my students that when you see denial or you see people having some kind of defense mechanism, yeah, don't go strip the person down. Right? There's a reason why the person have some defense mechanism in there. And all of
Right.
us have that, right? So
Yes.
I don't think I want anybody to come and tear my defense down. That will only force me to put up more, right?
Correct.
So again, if I understand why defense needs to be there, it means the person is probably feeling quite scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if we know we are dealing with somebody who's already quite scared or fearful, then I think it goes back to what we talked about just now, which is creating more safety, more trusting in the relationship, right?
Okay.
Then, when the person is already feeling safe, there's no need for any, whether denial, avoidance, whatever. It will probably still be there, but they,
Okay.
they will soften. They will soften a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
But of
So
course,
you bring
yeah,
your defense down in a way, isn't it?
naturally, yeah, without
Yeah.
somebody going to hack the wall down. hack the wall down, it'll be really bloody.
Yeah, definitely. And we
Or
don't
you
want
may
that
lose
to
the person.
happen.
Yeah, you may lose the person. You may lose
Correct.
that friendship with a friend, right? Or if it's your son or your, family member, you don't want the person to go hiding even
Yep.
more. It's harder to draw the person out, right? But I guess your question is also very important because sometimes when the avoidance or the denial is too much and you are seeing the person is deteriorating already and you got to do
Hmm.
something, right? So I often tell people that, because I receive a lot of phone calls sometimes, and these are family members or friends, partners who are very concerned about their
Yeah.
spouse or their family or their kids, and the person doesn't want to come forward for help.
Hmm.
So I would say to them that either one, you wait for the right opportunity. So you focus on building safety and trust, right? So that
Yep.
you can pursue the person. But if the person is still adamant of not coming for help themselves, then as parents or as family members, you come first.
Okay.
You go seek help first, because chances is that when you are receiving help, you become healthier, and hopefully you have less stress and you become happier, and then it will
Definitely.
influence you. It can have a positive influence on other family members, and when everybody is changing, then something different is happening in the family, yeah, in the relationship, in the interaction with the person of concern. We often see very good results when one person change in the family, other people start, things start
Moving
becoming
along as
good,
well.
moving along and different, you know.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to take a short song break. We'll come back after this. If you're watching this afternoon and you'd like to share the word about mental health and how to deal with mental health, especially during this whole pandemic, it's far from over. So let's get some tips from Dr. Ng this afternoon. You can actually drop your questions in the comment box. If you have opinions as well, you can share them with us. Otherwise, if you would like to spread the word, go ahead and share this post as well. I'll be back right after this here on AFR Radio. Okay? But the views are damn low, right? Everything's down.
Are we doing okay so far, Mac?
Let's get it on. We got some fresh beat for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. We got some fresh beat for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go. Let's get it on. We got some fresh beats for you. The music. AFO. 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 Hold up. It's AFOradio.com. Let's go.
And through these cheers on AFOradio.com. Hi, good afternoon. I am Mag, and this is AFO Live. Now, this afternoon, I have the very beautiful Dr. Wai Sheng. She is a founder and clinical director of Growing Spaces Psychology Center, Malaysia, and she's with us this afternoon to talk about the mental health. Our mental health during this whole pandemic, having to face everything that we're facing at this very moment. I want to say hi to Jerry, who said hi on our chat box. And hey, if you're watching this afternoon and you have any questions, if you know of someone going through a mental health issue and they need help, if you have a question for Dr. Ng, you're more than welcome to ask them on our chat box as well. Okay, for now, let's get back to our chat. Now, my question is, right, we spoke about how to approach someone, facing denial and stuff like that. But if the person turns around and says, hey, you know what? You want me to go and get some help, but how will this help me? How can speaking to a psychologist or a psychiatrist actually help me? What can they do?
They can do a lot. With family and friends sometimes cannot. Yeah. So sometimes people think, oh, you're just talking, but it's a different way of talking. Yeah. Both psychologists and psychiatrists are trained, mental health professionals, trained to listen to someone's mental functioning, of course, but also how they are doing in terms of their thinking, their feeling, and their action. What is it saying about their level of functioning? So, what is different from talking with a family or because sometimes with that closeness, it's hard, to listen with objectivity. Whatever the person saying, sometimes you feel they're talking about you.
You get very defensive.
Yeah, you can't help it. This is normal because when you have the relationship or the attachment there, things become very personal. So it helps talking. Of course, it'd be nice if you have the kind of resources to talk with a very good listener, a friend, or a mentor. But if you don't have that kind of resources, then talking with a mental health professional, one is the listening, so that the through the ventilating of the problem, that helps one. Not just that, we are also trained to help the person to think differently. Yeah, particularly psychologists, and of course counselors as well, family therapists. We help the person. But the reason that the person becomes stuck in the current problem is usually how you think about the problem got you stuck there, right? So. Right. All of us, deserve to think about problems in multiple ways. So sometimes we are so used or so accustomed to think about a problem one certain way, and then we got stuck. When you talk to somebody who is trained, professionally, not just talking from their own personal experience, but really trained, they have learned, from studies, from other people's experiences, and they share with you a different perspective. That gives you options to think about what alternatives you can explore. Now, for some very more severe mental health problems, for example, mania, or very severe depression, very high level of anxieties, you can't sleep, so prolonged insomnia, or if you're having psychosis, like hearing voices or delusion, then I would say that you have no choice. But sometimes talk therapy alone can trigger more problem. So it's better that you take a little bit of medication. Now, this is where psychiatrists are very helpful. Good psychiatrists usually will use a little bit of medication to stabilize the person very quickly, so that they can later on not depend on the medication for life, but then they will channel them to good therapists who can journey with them and talk about the problems, so that then long term the person can have better ways of coping rather than just depend on medication.
Wow. Okay. So there are two options, and if it is a little bit more serious than normal, then there will be medication prescribed, of course.
Yeah, if the person choose to, of course,
Okay.
I often tell people it's better to have medication than to not. If without medication, it's terminal, right? But even with medication, I think we want to be very careful, especially during this period of time of pandemic, because so much of what we experience, the negative feelings or the negative
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, they are probably normal. So I would suggest to people, if you seek out mental health professionals, look for somebody who can help you normalize your pain, not pathologize you further. you know.
Definitely. Okay. I'm curious though. You say normalize your pain. What does that actually mean? What is normalizing pain?
I think that's another way of treating ourselves with a little bit more compassion, right? Sometimes I think we judge ourselves too much.
Definitely.
Um, and this is not just like, oh, you are bad, or you are ugly, or you are incompetent. It's not just that, although those are kind of those core negative beliefs, right? But I'm talking about sometimes giving ourselves certain diagnosis, yeah, and really allowing that to brainwash us, and kind of let that define our life. That can be sometimes can be quite damaging, I think. Yeah. So instead, if we can look at the context, right? I think this pandemic really become an equalizer, right? Last time, when you are a little bit more particular about hygiene, you wash your hand a little bit more. If you have certain ritual, so you get labeled with OCD. Have you heard of that?
Correct. Absolutely.
Right. Now most of us are OCD a bit, right? So it becomes normal, right?
Okay.
So I think the more we can not disown, I think disown the dark side, the not so pleasant, the ugly side within ourselves, because the more we disown that, we're going to park it somewhere and say, oh, that person has it, I'm fine,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
So we go around
Absolutely.
and judge and diagnose and say that, this person is like that, I'm not like that, I'm fine, But actually, if you're willing to accept that part of us that is not so perfect, and it's really quite anxious, quite angry, quite sad, and maybe very jealous, or very despair, you know.
Mm.
I think the more we can embrace that side of ourselves, we have a different perspective when we look at ourselves and other people. We get to listen to people's pain as more normal, yeah, because we
Okay.
can relate that, yeah.
Okay. Understood. So basically, we're just understanding what they're going through and, accepting them for what they're going through as well. Correct?
Yeah, and you can't fake that, if I may say that, because it's something that really is, in your heart. If you don't accept that part of yourself, there's no way you can accept that in other people,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Okay. Definitely. All right. Now, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to actually send them to us, and we will direct it to Dr. Ng this afternoon. I've got one here on the comment section from Anderson Kalang, who's a very good friend of ours. He says, Mag, this is a very relevant topic this afternoon. Thank you for having this. Now, my question to Dr. Ng is, as a life and financial advisor, I came across a client who was suicidal, attempted to end it a few times, and I'm occasionally giving him advice on positivity of life by asking him to find new interests, new hobbies, just to divert his thoughts of ending his life. Now, as for himself, since he's also a musician, um, we'll
Sorry
wait for
about
the lorry
that.
to pass. No worries. Now, since he's also a musician, he's motivating him to explore singing and learning new instruments as well. So, as a professional, when it comes to mental health, what is your advice, Dr. Ng? What should he do? What could be more helpful in terms of helping this person?
Yeah. So I
Thank you,
see.
Anderson, for your question.
Yes, thank you, Anderson. I think that what you do is very normal. I think most lay people do that. You try when people tell you about suicidal thoughts or very negative beliefs about themselves. We try to divert it. We try to balance it right to the other side, right? Um, so I'm curious. I don't know if you could respond here, but I'm curious. What is the result of that? Like when you try to divert it, does the person become better? Does the person respond to the positivity? Yeah. In my experience, often it's not. The person will try to balance you back by proving that it doesn't work for them, right? So when I work with my clients, and you can, if you see this is a useful tip for you, you can borrow it. I often want to join my clients where they are. I will join
Okay.
them there first. Yeah. But you see, when people talk about death wish or suicidal thoughts, those are very dark places that not many people can stay there. That's why most people keep it to themselves, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they either don't want to burden you, they don't want to alarm you, they don't want to, they don't want you to tell them cliche things that they don't want to hear, right?
Correct.
So I think the more we can engage with that part of ourselves that can also uh, be suicidal, the part of ourselves that can see why death sometimes can be a good idea, Not that we want to encourage it, and neither are we saying that it's okay, yeah. But we are saying that the more I can tap on that side of myself, you know, then I can join whoever that I want to journey with. I can join the person there, and then I can tune my ears to really listen. What's going on that's making this person want to die? What's going on that's making this person feel that that's the best, that's the only way? Yeah,
Mm.
because only when we get to really listen to the spoken and unspoken desire and need, then you and the person may have a different idea of how to come out from it, if they want to
Mm.
come out from it. Yeah, I should say also that suicidal thoughts is actually an ambivalence. Yeah,
Okay.
meaning the person is kind of in that ambivalent state of should I not, can I not, do I want to, do I not, so they are exploring, they are ambivalent. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's
Okay.
important to actually explore and talk about the ambivalence rather than dodge that ambivalence.
I've always thought that if someone is at that point in time, in point in their life, like you said, it's a very dark place to be in, But if they speak to you about it, it is already a sign that they are reaching out for help. They're trying to say, please help me. I don't know where I'm going. I'm not sure if it is right or true that what I think, but yeah. What do you think, Doctor?
No, I think you are right. I think when people are willing to talk about something, it's an invitation. It's a
Mm.
privilege that I would see it that way. It's a privilege
Yeah,
that
so
we
they
can.
trust you enough to, share
Right,
that part of them.
right, exactly. Because it's very hard to talk about these things, right?
Exactly.
Um, but also we want to be careful because um, when people invite us to talk, we could say things that are
That
not
could
helpful.
trigger. Yep, yep.
That could make them feel that what's the point of talking. you
Yeah,
know
that's
yeah,
true.
so I guess I'm still kind of responding to Anderson's I hear that the wonderful intention there is to save the person, to help the person. So I think the most important thing is stay. Don't run ahead. Don't clearly you're not lagging behind, but but don't run ahead. Try to like pull the other person, drag the other person to the other side. Because they
Hmm.
are not there yet. Yeah. When people are thinking about dying, sometimes these are very deep people, and
Okay.
you want to kind of honor that side of them, because sometimes the more you talk about there, when you finish exploring their fantasy of death, then they are more ready by themselves to explore something else.
Brilliant. Okay. Now, Anderson has actually responded. He says, yes, doctor. Thankfully, he showed interest in it and occasionally talks about it and have started to open up to people around him as well. So he says, thank you for your advice. And he truly appreciates your advice as well. Anything
Most
that you'd like to add more for Anderson, Wai Sheng?
No, I'm happy for him that the person that he's journeying with seems like very responsive. So Anderson have a lot of positive influence on this person, huh? So keep up the good
It
work.
Anderson is a brilliant person. He is absolutely positive as well, and his musical talents can hypnotize you, if I can say that
Yeah.
sometimes as well. So it's brilliant.
You sing for us.
Thank you so much, Anderson, for your question. Now back to our topic this afternoon. Hey, if you have a question similar, you need help this afternoon, and we have Dr. Ng with us as well. You can actually, just comment in the comment section below and tell us what you're thinking. Also, feel free to share the post so that we can reach out to more people as well this afternoon. Okay. Now, speaking about mental health during the whole pandemic now, how and can we actually come out of it? I mean, if you were affected mentally, right? You're mentally affected by this whole pandemic. Can we recover after such a traumatic experience? Like, for
Mhm.
instance, Anderson's friend, he was at the point of suicide, right? So, can you recover from something like this?
Yeah, I believe that all of us not just have resources, but we are resilient people. Yeah, resilient really means two things, right? It is toughness and also elasticity. So I think during good times, we don't realize how strong we really are, because during good times, you don't see
Really?
resilience. It's really during very difficult times, dark times, that's when the inner light gets to shine, right?
Yep.
So I think through this pandemic, yes, we have people who in their despair have gone to the extreme of wanting to die, yeah, or we have all these like drunk driving, and all that, which is really a lot of rage and anger, and that got suppressed, and people can be depressed, they cope with addiction and alcoholism. So we know that domestic violence increase also. So people can cope in all these very extreme ways, but at the same time, we also see the best in people, right? When we people discover their hidden talents, people start cooking and baking. Usually is
Art
the
pieces, all
art
sorts of creative stuff.
you saw, right, and then
Yep.
usually it's the maybe the mother who takes care of the kids, and then suddenly they realize actually the father's very good too, so I think this pandemic reveals that we are more than what we think we are, and yes, many businesses have to suffer, close down, people lost jobs, but I think in the process of that, it's also a wake up call for many people to check in with themselves and see what really matters. Especially during the
Definitely.
lockdown. I think when people are kind of in that enclosed space, it drives you nuts. Of course, that's one. But at the same time, this crisis can either be very dangerous, but it also create new opportunities for people to
Definitely.
discover to more about themselves, their toughness, their flexibility, that they can change from like a physical shop to online business. Restaurants realize that hey, we can sell raw food, right? So they've been like distributing all these groceries to our house, and so I was very very impressed actually during this period of time, how resilient people are, how resilient children are. you know Parents were telling me that they were expecting their kids to make a fuss and all that
Definitely.
not at home, but many, I think because the parents do a really good job. They may not think so, but they may think that they are struggling, but the parents, when they can very quickly stabilize themselves and create that kind of structure for their kids, actually their kids become very resilient. I heard of parents who, they have to work, so they have to leave some space for, the kids to play. And the kids would just create a tent. And then that become their permanent, like not permanent, their temporary, play, play space. And I think it's fantastic. People are resilient if we can begin to
Definitely.
to to uncover that side of ourselves.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, that's interesting what you've just pointed out, but
Mm.
is it possible for us to go back to pre-MCO state though? I mean, after having to go through everything that you've gone through throughout the whole pandemic season,
Mm.
going back to a time where everything was, well, in our minds, roses and sunshines and everything nice, right? So, is there a way to go back to that state, that mental health state again, once you've gone through a dark space?
Yeah, yeah. I'm smiling because I've been pondering that question myself too, and asking that question. Like if I were to go back to the pre-MCO state, or pre-pandemic state, what do I really want to keep? Like what is there that is so good that is really worth keeping? And what
Mm,
is that maybe I might not want to keep. I might want to change, and whatever that
yeah,
because life is, we cannot live backward. We keep moving forward. That's the constant,
absolutely.
right? Change is the constant. It's a delusion, I think. I think this pandemic really wake us up, right? It's a delusion or illusion to think that we have all this security, predictability, that things will forever be like that. Yeah. And just as we get
Mm,
comfortable with the lockdown, right? And we stay at home, right? MCO,
let's
RMCO,
get
then
shaken though.
yeah, we are like the door is open and we are out again. And then everybody was like, do I really want to go out? You see, it's change all the time. And I think people who copes well with all these changes when they are adaptive, yeah, or we train ourselves to be adaptive, to be flexible, yeah, to surf the wave, then I think mentally we are more healthy if we can be
Okay.
more flexible to changes. Yeah.
I think human beings in nature are adaptive. We're able to adapt. It just takes a little longer for certain people, and faster for certain people to an extent. Is that
Mm,
right?
yes.
Or
Yes.
are there people who find it very difficult to adapt?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm thinking of how a person is before the pandemic.
Mm,
So the we call it the pre-morbid functioning. So before the pandemic happened, are you flexible? Are you optimistic? I think generally, if you are adaptive, flexible, and optimistic before, even after the pandemic or any adversity, that part of you will still be there, right? But of course, for some people, this pandemic can really hit them very hard. You can be like,
definitely.
you can be very optimistic and very, mentally very positive before the pandemic. But then the pandemic maybe took the life of a loved one, right? Or it may not have taken somebody's life in your family, but because somebody was infected, your whole family got ostracized, got stigmatized, right? You know how, like, the person's details, patient's details got
Yeah,
like leaked in social media. It's horrible,
yeah.
and people are really traumatized. Families are really traumatized, when they get back to their workplace, the school, and all that, and how people talk about, these them and are afraid of them. And I think traumas like this, it really, even if you were coping very well before, it can change your perspective. I think people can start developing, a lot of stress reactions. Yeah, we can call it post-traumatic stress, but I would say that kind of post-traumatic stress is still normal. Yeah, it's a normal reaction to a very abnormal situation.
Very nicely said. Indeed.
But the danger is that if we are not careful, what professional that we go to, and you can end up receiving, like, diagnosis that makes you think that you are really really kind of crazy, or you have
Oh
some
no!
disorder. Yeah. So I think we have to be very careful,
Careful.
um, and take it slow. I think we need to digest our experiences and go slow with kind of diagnosing ourselves, but more normalizing, because it's a very difficult time.
Indeed
um,
it is.
yeah. So, whether you are a mental health professional, even myself, a lot of work that I do with clients is really normalizing, because I'm going through that anxiety through. I'm going through that wondering about, this and this uncertainty, how things will become. So I'm worried about income too. I'm worried about, can I pay my staff? So I think these are very normal experience. And if you are losing sleep and you can't, eat well during this time, if you're having fights at home, I think the more we can normalize and contextualize it, then we don't internalize and blame ourselves for not being good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, and all kinds of things.
All right, brilliant. Okay, now, Dr. Ang, we've come to the end of the show already. I wish I could go on for longer, but I think you've shared with us quite a lot of really important notes, for us to remember that it is something that we're all probably going through or would
Mhm.
have gone through. And while we may not have noticed, others around us may have. And, if they are reaching out, then it's good to just, open up to the ones that you trust the most. Like Anderson was a brilliant example where someone trusted him enough to open up. So, you
Mm.
guys, if you need help, you should seek help. If you notice someone who needs help, well, Dr. Ng has shared with us how you can approach the topic as well. Now, if you just joined us and you missed the first half of the show, don't worry, you can actually rewatch it later on. Um, because we're ending the show right now, Dr. Ng, I want to ask you, what's your advice to someone who may be experiencing trauma from the pandemic, and where can they go for help?
Yeah. I think when you recognize that you need help, I think that's already half the battle won. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you can really acknowledge that you're going through all these, very complex emotions, well, first look around you. If you can find people that you trust, people that you feel safe with, that you can process, you know, a little bit of what's going on, and make sure that your friend listen and don't give advice, but make sure that your friend just try to help you understand, normalize the context. Yeah,
Mhm.
then that's the cheapest way, I think. If really, you look around you and you find that you don't have anybody that you feel safe enough to open up to, then consider getting professional help. And by professional help, I'm thinking that if you are quite aware, and you're willing to do that kind of introspective work, then I think going to see a psychologist or a counselor, or if it's about a relational problem, go see a family therapist, couple therapist. For children, go see like a play therapist, because children don't always kind of talk with words, but
Open up.
they play.
Yeah.
Yeah, so use play or creative like art therapy,
Hmm.
drama therapy. So use professional tools to help you grow from this crisis. We talked about the post-traumatic stress, but I think many people but actually this is the trend right now. I think we are moving away from just focusing on post-traumatic stress, but to think about post-traumatic growth or post-crisis growth. Yeah, because
Mm.
if you can begin to discover the stronger side of yourself, you begin to discover the more creative side of yourself, the more flexible side of yourself. That's growth. If
I
because of
love that.
this lockdown, your relationship with your partner, with your family members, your children, you're getting closer. That's growth, and that's to be celebrated.
Indeed. That's very well said. Now, Wai Sheng, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. It has indeed been a wonderful and an eye-opening session as always, So we
Thank you
do
so much.
hope that those who are watching silently and who are in need of help, whether it's, reaching out to your family or professional help, please go out and seek help. And if you feel like you're going through something and you don't know where to begin, maybe watch the video again and then listen to what Wai Shing just shared with us and take it from there, because
Mm,
let's face it, we've all gone through somewhat of an emotional roller coaster throughout this whole pandemic season. Yeah, it's not just
mhm.
you, but it's all of us. We all had our own share of difficulties during this time, so you're not alone and you're all right. Okay, just go out and look for the help. So Wai Shing, thank you once again for spending your time with us. We will catch up with you soon for another eye-opening topic. In the meantime, you take care and have a great day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye, Mac.